Thank you very much, Jeffrey. I've got a couple other people with me that are going to also be speaking as well. Kenny Tay and Don Bartusiak will be joining me also. I'm going to let Kenny introduce Don and himself. Kenny?
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Bruce. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kenny Tay. I'm the Southeast Asia Life Science Industry Consultant at Rockwell Automation. So today with me, I'm honored to have Bruce Kane and Don Bartusiak. So let me give a brief introduction of the two distinguished speakers. So Bruce is the Global Industry Consultant.
You don't need to redo it. You don't need to do me again. Just do Don.
So I'll be introducing Don Bartusiak, who is the President of Collaborative System Integration, which is an Austin-based startup providing system integration services and software products for open process automation-based system. So Don has a rich experience in the process automation field. In October 20, he has retired from ExxonMobil Research and Engineer as the Chief Engineer for Process Control. He has 33 years of experience in process control with ExxonMobil and 7 years of experience in process development research with Bethlehem Steel. So at ExxonMobil, he also is a process control application engineer who works on artificial intelligence, linear and non-linear model predictive control, and real-time optimization at the US and UK central engineering offices in manufacturing. So, and last but not least to me, I'll give a short introduction of myself. I have more than 8 years of experience in the biotech field, where I focus on upstream processing technologies such as stainless steel and single-use technology, mammalian cell culture, single-use facility startup, and last but not least, smart manufacturing technologies such as IoT, MES, AR/VR, AI/ML, and etc. So these are the topics that we'll be focusing on in the presentation. First, I'll be starting off with what are the key challenges and the needs of the life science industry and how a ballroom concept can help to solve these challenges. Then I'll be passing on to Bruce and Don, who will be explaining the concept of having a modular automation. Afterwards, they will be speaking on what are some various modular automation standards out there and who we are working with in coming out with these automation standards and where we are as of today. Then we will be going through what we have learned so far in terms of proof of concepts, testings, and learnings while developing these standards. Then last but not least, we'll go through a recap and Q&A session. So with further ado, let me start the presentation with the challenges in process automation. So at the start of the story map over here, it depicts where we are currently at in the automation world and what are the challenges over the years that we face in the biopharmaceutical manufacturing world itself. So at the end of the story map, it depicts the future state of what we are creating now for automation in the biopharmaceutical world. So traditionally in biopharmaceutical manufacturing, right, they are manufactured in large stainless steel bioreactors along with centrifuge, chromatography skids, and UFDF skids. So as all the equipments are custom built, static installation for specific process usage, and with various vendors creating different process kits that is run on customized protocols such as Ethernet IP, Profibus, Profinet, OPC UA, etc. So this results in the following 5 challenges. The first challenge is that, the inability to easily switch out unit operations. Number 2 is you have a longer build time and a higher cost of automation integration. Number 3, each automation interface requires a unique development efforts. Thus will lead us to point 4, which is high maintenance cost due to custom engineered automation interface. And number 5, a long product change over time. So what we saw as personalized medicine grew in trend, right, was a need for more flexible and modular configurations. So along with this, single-use technology grew in popularity with flexibility from a lack of CIP and etc. So it shows the future state that we are currently creating. So as you can see over the right top, right, there is a command center. So the command center has visibility over the operations in the plant, along with dashboards KPIs such as quality batch production rate, work order statuses, quality deviation dashboards, equipment OEE and manpower utilization rate, wages consumption per batch, per lot, and etc. and status of the equipment. So this will create a data-driven organization within the management from the shift lead level all the way to the site head level. So in the future state over at the production level on the bottom right itself, you can see that it shows that a standardized and iterable architecture of the production processes, which allows the usage of any type of equipment configuration specific to market demands. So there will be significant visibility over the floor whenever there are equipment failures or replacement. The replacement of an equipment is as simple as plugging out the plug and replacing it with a pre-configured equipment itself. So thus, with the future state, it helps to achieve the following benefits, as you can see over the right-hand corner on the bottom right itself. So first is speed to market. Second is reducing cost due to standardization, as there will be zero automation engineering required to copy a production line. Then decrease in quality costs as the systems are pre-validated. And last but not least, flexibility in the production line to be able to reconfigure systems according to demand from the market itself. So here, after going through some of the key challenges faced by the industry, I would like to ask the audience over here on what are your current challenges faced in your facility respective to process automation. Is it number one, production lines are difficult to reconfigure? Number two, non-standard interfaces to skip. Number three, you're locked into specific vendors, thus making it difficult to integrate multiple vendors. Number four, long product changeover period. And number five, long and complex procedure for new product introduction. With this, we'll count down the timer for 1 minute for you guys to do the polling question. Okay, we are starting to see the polls coming in. So for those that have yet to do the poll, please proceed to vote for the challenges that you are facing inside process automation currently. Okay, so we can see that currently locked into specific vendors, difficult to integrate to multiple vendors are one of the key challenges as of now. Okay, the poll has closed, and the result of the poll is that the top three challenges are, Christina, could you flash the poll results again? Yeah, so the top three is that first is on difficult to reconfigure. Second is locked into specific vendors, difficult to integrate to multiple vendors. And number three is non-standard interface to skids itself. So with those being the top three challenges, I'll be introducing the ballroom concept and how it can help to solve these top three challenges. Thanks, Christina. So this is a ballroom concept that I was speaking about. So the entire picture here depicts a ballroom, right? Which is an open room to produce your BDS, your bulk drug substances, simultaneously and more over the year in the campaign itself. So the ballroom has two portions of it, which is the upstream and the downstream in a production line. So it's designed in an ISO 8 and with the ability to handle up to BSL2 material itself. So the biologics manufacturing processes is working in closed or functionally closed process. So the package itself, as you can see over here, so package refers to equipment or a set of equipment supplied by an equipment vendor or an OEM, which has the three criteria. So they must fulfill these three criteria. The first criteria is that it must be connected to a dock for execution. Number two, it must be able to collaborate with the info solution architecture itself. And number three, it must be able to make something, for example, along with your ISA 88 unit procedure or your services itself. So as you can see over the left, there is a dock. So a dock is a standardized station to plug all type of equipment required for drug substances production within the ballroom itself. So the dock is based on 5 functionality. Number one, the dock has the same footprint. So meaning that, it's based out of the most voluminous equipment itself to ensure that there's full agility so that any dock can host and feed any type of equipment. Number two, the same utilities and power is sized to feed any equipment for easy plug and play. Number three, same air aerotic. So same arrangement of HVAC supply and return. Number four, digital connectivity. So the docking station must be able to digitally integrate with systems which allow for full integration with the IS architecture. And number five, a dock supply utilities on demand to the connected package itself. So as you can see on the sides, right, there is a corridor for material transfer. So there will be a robot or third-party system that will be able to transport anything to and fro to the ballroom through a material pass-through itself. So this is the principle of ballroom modularity based on the physical and procedural model of the ISA 88 model. So in the physical model at the top right, you can see that there are multiple modules. So modules here refer to the equipment such as your fermenters, your ultrafiltration skids, your cell culture 20-liter bioreactor, and etc., which represents the entire comprehensive design package tested and secured with vendors, which is essentially a validated package itself. So one module such as fermenters, you can see it consists of multiple unit operations such as fermentation, unloading, and etc. It can be your installation and etc. So depending on your master recipe, right? So you can see that the unit operations below in the physical model will then be used in the procedural model. So for example, unit operation in the fermenter module itself will start first per your master batch recipe, followed by unit operation UF of your module ultrafiltration skid itself, and lastly, unit operation of stabilization of your module stabilization tank. So this in turn will form an entire sequence of operations. So according to the procedural model, logically, the module which are your equipment will then be placed in order in the docking system for production line 1 over the right itself, starting from your module fermenter all the way to your module stabilization tank. So according to your production needs, right, the line can be reconfigured at any time to the master recipe requirement, which entails the concept of plug and play. So for topic 2 itself, we'll be touching on the concept of modular automation. With that, I would like to pass the mic over to Don. Don, please.
Thank you, Kenny. So I have one slide here to start to introduce the open process automation concept. So let me be really brief here. So the motivations that Kenny listed are highly analogous and similar to the motivations for open process automation. Let me just kind of reiterate the key customer pain points. A lack of interoperability between systems from different suppliers, excessive total costs of ownership and high costs to replace because of the difficulties of reusing configurations and software between systems from different suppliers, or even from one generation of one vendor's equipment to a later generation. A third motivation and pain point are barriers to new value creation with the introduction of new and third-party technologies. These are all barriers with the existing industrial control systems. And a fourth motivation and pain point that we want to address is improved cybersecurity with improved technology concepts. So the vision for and it didn't matter, and these are all observations when I was the chief engineer for ExxonMobil Research and Engineering. And we realized that it didn't matter which vendors you used. It was systemic to the industrial control system industry. So our vision for a solution to those pain points and problems is to move away from closed proprietary systems to a standards-based, open, secure, and interoperable process automation architecture. So Bruce, if you can click one more time. So this chart here depicts the reference architecture for open process automation. I'm just going to define three terms with this chart. Term number one, that you see these yellow boxes labeled DCN, that's distributed control node. So these are units of interoperability and interchangeability. Those devices can be sourced from different suppliers. So think about those devices as replacing your PLCs or your DCS controllers. The second fundamental concept is industry standard technology for communications and networking. That's the OPAS connectivity framework, OCF. And third, modern approaches to computing technology in the form of the advanced computing platform. So even with the movement to the cloud, the types of on-premise computing assets that you need that are low latency, high availability, that will be delivered by the advanced computing platform function, in addition to those DCN, the distributed control nodes. And so this is the basic OPA concept. I just wanted to introduce it at this part of the talk, and then I'll fill in the details later. So Bruce, you can carry on, sir.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm going to continue with trying to introduce some key concepts to sort of lay a foundation for the rest of our talk here. So a key concept that comes out in NAMUR is a concept of a module type package. And a module type package is somewhat analogous to a printer driver. So what the module type package does is allows that plug and play piece of equipment on its first plug-in to tell the system that it's being plugged into what it can do. And so that's one term, module type package. Another term I want to introduce is the term process orchestration layer. So process orchestration layer refers to the controlling layer of the process. It could be a batch server, it could be an MES system, it could be a state driver. NAMUR is not specific as to what a process orchestration layer is. And then the third piece of equipment, third terminology I want to bring up is the concept of a process equipment assembly, a PEA. And that's the skid or the piece of equipment that you're plugging in. So here's another look at that sort of relationship between the process orchestration layer and the process equipment assembly. A couple key things to note in this illustration. The first one is NAMUR MPP runs on top of OPC UA. They've chosen that to be their communication protocol. Another thing to note is the various types of process equipment assemblies you can have and the various complexities of those equipment assemblies, right? From unit operations to simple display operations to things like a simple peristaltic pump. So you can have a wide range of PEA complexity. And then the final thing I want you to notice here is this MTP file. This is that initial configuration and initial definition of that PEA, this transmitted to the process orchestration layer. That generally only happens once in the process. usually on the first plugin, on the first recognition, that's when that will happen. And just, to expand on the architecture that one could expect in a NAMUR MTP application. Along the bottom here, we've got the different process equipment assemblies. They're attached to the process. A couple things to note is each of those can have a different set of functions it's providing, different services, different data, different history. Another thing to note is these are all connected natively. We can also have the concept of a gateway controller or a translation service that can take the MTP language and transfer it to some non-conformant older system. So we have the capability to also bring in older systems and older functions into the MTP space. There's a concept within NAMUR MTP of a process equipment assembly type, and that's basically a complexity number from 1 to 5. So 1 would be the most simple type of PEA, and 5 would be the most complex type of PEA. And then the final piece of functionality that NAMUR MTP provides is this data repository, data access layer to your process, to the runtime interface buds, to the actual what's going on the shop floor, so that other functions such as MOM applications, maintenance, they can interface and control the MTP devices. Notice that the process orchestration layer control can come in many different formats: logic, interlock, sequence. And the NAMUR MTP specification is not real specific on it. Real quick, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this, but there is a significant savings that can be had from implementing some of these concepts. Probably even more doing some of the OPAF stuff also. So these are demonstrated savings from actual projects that we've seen, savings by implementing in a modular fashion, in a repeatable fashion. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of the organizations, or introduce some of the organizations that are involved in leading some of these modular automation standards and activities out there. There's a whole alphabet soup of different organizations: NAMUR MTP, OPAF, PACML, ISP's got the plug and produce activity that they're doing. BioPhorum has a plug and play group. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later on, but there's a whole plethora of organizations looking at this problem, and they're looking at it from a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different viewpoints. Some are very detailed. BioPhorum's looking at defining a single unit classes operation, right? PACML does something very similar. Some of them are looking at a very broad view. ISP, plug and produce, is a very broad view of the problem. So there's a lot of groups that are looking at this. This slide shows a gap analysis that was done by the BioPhorum big data work stream, looking at what are some of the data streams, areas in a manufacturing facility that might have standards associated with them. What are the standards? So it's really sort of a survey of available standards across the entire manufacturing facility. And if we look at just this one line here in the middle, this circled in blue, this is the area that we're talking about. So it's a small slice out of a somewhat larger pie of functionality and standards that need to be considered. Now, if you dig down, dig down a bit further within that production row, this is a survey of all the production standards that are presently out there. MTP, OPAF, PAC-ML, PCUA, S88, S95, 61131, plug and produce, still level comms. I don't have NOA on here. That's another one that Don, I think, mentioned a second ago. And what we've tried to do for all of these is identify, different pieces of information about that standard. Describe it. What's the formal reference to it? What is the scope of the standard? Is it an international standard? Does it have an activity state model? Does it have a service model? Are there additional standards related to it? What's the motivation behind the standard? So this is an effort to, sort of identify what is that landscape, what is out there, what's available. Incidentally, if you know of any that we should include here, include it in the chat. We'd like to make sure we have a complete list here. So if we forgot anything or left anything off, let us know. And so with with all those different standards and all those different activities out there, how might you put that together to actually do something? So here's an example of a standard stack that we've used to do quite a bit of testing, proof of concept testing through the BioPhorum. So on top of an Ethernet TCP/IP network, we're running OPCUA servers that are communicating the MTP format of information and the MTP services model. And that services model is driving the unit class definition that BioPhorum's done. So that's an example of how, at least in one aspect or one slice of this production, you might put things together to achieve something. Now, I think all this stuff in Don's world would also run on an abstracted controller. I think maybe we'll let Don talk about that in a minute. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Don to talk a little bit more about what the Open Process Automation Forum's done. You're muted, Don.
Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, so I want to talk about the Open Process Automation Forum that's defining the standard, but it's also building out the business ecosystem and spinning up the conformance certification process. So the OPA standard, which we have the acronym O-PAS, or we just call it OPAS, is being created by the Open Process Automation Forum of the Open Group. The Open Group is the facilitating organization. And so the OPA Forum started life in 2017, November of 2016. Presently, we have 114 company members, 22 operating companies. Notably, you can see Merck MSD's logo here, and 6 of the 7 global major DCS companies. So this is addressing the needs of multiple industry vertical sectors. Next slide, please, Bruce. So the standard itself, we like to say that it is a standard of standards. And what that means is we want to be as efficient and effective as possible by using existing industry standards and avoiding wheel reinvention wherever possible. And only when there are no applicable or fit for purpose standards do we think about creating new ones. So we've published 3 releases of the standard. It just so happens the numbering system for the 3.1 was published in a preliminary form in May of 2021. But like I say, it consists of references to other industry standards. So let me just explain this table. Part 1, these refer to documents that are freely available. This information gets published in the public domain. So you can get all these documents free of charge from the Open Group's website. So part 1 of the OPA standard explains architecture, largely based on ISA 95. Cybersecurity is the second part, largely based on the work of ISA 99 and now its international version, IEC 62443. Part 4 refers to the industry standard networking technology, where the referenced standard is OPCUA. Part 5 is technology that's relatively new to industrial control systems, but it's very well established in IT, in the IT domain. It's approaches for systems management, where a key enabler is a software called Redfish, and there are also hardware complements that support improved systems management. Part 6 addresses the information models that are keys to achieving interoperability. And I know a phrase that's very important in the pharma industry and also with Industry 4.0 coming out of Germany, the concept of semantic interoperability. So there we're using automation ML, ISA 18 for alarms. Again, OPCUA is very fundamental to the information modeling. Bruce already cited IEC 61131, which everybody should be familiar with as the basics for PLC programming, but we're certainly extending it. And then an improvement on IEC 61131 called 61499 that I don't have time to go into the details. We're also addressing the interoperability and interchangeability of the hardware. That's what part 7 is about. So this is defining standards for what we call the physical platform, particularly for the DCN devices. So this is about specifying standards for low-level bus technologies, connectors, and things of that nature. Looking ahead, what we're working on now is version 3, where we're going to address application portability, again, achieving a key quality attribute of software reuse, further detailing the physical platform, and a concept, system orchestration. And this is different from the process orchestration that Bruce described in the MTP vision. And what system orchestration is, again, we're leveraging technology that's been developed in IT, particularly in data centers and cloud computing installations, for managing systems of computers and networks to bring a higher degree of automation, reliability to it. And that's called system orchestration, where the key fundamental standard is called the acronym TOSCA. So let's move on, Bruce. So we're not only working on the technical standard, we're trying to build the business ecosystem that is necessary for commercial success of the vision. A lot of words on this chart. I'm not going to read them. But if there's any one document that anyone should read to get an understanding of the OPA concept, it's the business guide. We just published an update to it. We call it Business Guide 2.0. Was published in December 2021. There's a hyperlink to the document here. The key thing is there's a business case for action for multiple industry vertical sectors, including pharmaceuticals, in this document. And it explains why we're trying to do this, what we're doing, and what does the business ecosystem look like in the future state for sustainable success. The business case for the pharma industry was largely written by Gene Tung of Merck. If anybody on this call knows Gene, Gene is one of the smartest guys I know. The other thing I want to highlight here is with the business working group of the forum, this is where we liaise with other organizations. You can see that I highlighted NAMUR there, and collaborating on concepts like MTP are really essential for mutual success. Move on, Bruce, in the interest of time, please. Okay, we're not leaving conformance certification as an afterthought. The OPA Forum is currently starting up what we call the first wave of conformance certification that we expect to have operational in the second half of this year, where products will have to be submitted for conformance certification against the OPAS spec for things like cybersecurity, the OPCUA connectivity, the systems management aspects of the OPAS spec, and some of the first releases of the physical platform. So this is just the way that we're working. It's not only about the standard, it's about the standard, the technical spec, building the business ecosystem, and bringing conformance certification along in phase. Next slide, please, Bruce. I think that's it for me here.
Yeah, thanks, Don. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know Mr. Tung as well. I share the same view as you about the gentleman. I work with them in BioPhorum quite a bit. So I'm just going to quickly go through the next 5 or 6 slides. We're a little bit behind, I think, and you can come and read about BioPhorum later if you don't know about them, or you can just go to their website. They're a consortia of over 90 companies, 3,400 participants, trying to provide a single voice to the industry, right? They choose different topics based on industry needs and value to the industry. And they try and look across all aspects of the manufacturing landscape for a product. The work that I'm going to talk about is being done in their technology road mapping forum. We've got about 43 companies and 350 participants in there. You see Merck and some other companies you might recognize in there. That are participating in the work stream. Here's the charter, what we're trying to do within that work stream. Basically, we're trying to write a definition for certain unit classes of biomanufacturing equipment, something fairly simple. In the problem statement, you'll see a lot of the same stuff you heard Kenny talking about earlier. The goals, have a lot of the themes that Don and I have been speaking to, and the benefits as well. The work that they've done thus far, they've published 4 different documents. One is a value document, much like the business case driver document Don talked about, trying to help provide an estimate of the value of doing this to the industry. And then we published the first of what we hope are many unit class definitions. This for a stirred tank unit, which is basically an agitated vessel, to be a bioreactor, media prep tank, buffer prep tank. And then we've also published some strategies related to validation and some audit trail requirements that we believe are needed to support plug and play. And then we've got several documents that are currently in progress that we hope to be releasing this year. Among those is a filtration and the chromatography unit class specification. So we're hoping to expand beyond just a stir tank unit to some other unit classes of equipment, so we can test more. Real quick, some background on NAMUR and the MCP standard. This whole process started back in almost 10 years ago in 2013 with a NAMUR recommendation for an agnostic way to interface to process equipment. And there's several organizations that have been involved in this. ZVEI is an electrical industry organization. They took that recommendation, they wrote a white paper, and then VDE, which is a German Engineers Association automation, got together with NAMUR and they started putting out the 2658 standard, which is colloquially known as the MTP standard. Here's a table showing all the different sections or blats of the NAMUR MCP standard. A couple things to note: it's still a work in progress. Only 6 sections have made it through to public release. Only 3 have been officially released, right? There's another 3 that are out in draft form for comment. You also see there's several sections of the standard that will speak specifically to OPC UA concerns. Where is it? Yeah, and another thing is that they're open to input. This cross communication section is a new section that they added based on some testing that I'll talk about in a little bit that BioPhorum did. So with that whirlwind tour of BioPhorum and NAMUR, I'm going to throw it back over to Don to talk about some harmonization work that's been done amongst all these organizations to try and make sure nobody's overlapping stuff.
Right. So the story I want to tell here, really, the key takeaway that I want you to remember is harmonization. And you should not perceive MTP and OPA as being an either or proposition, Bruce. So if you can click here, let's see. Right. So what we really do not want people to think of and perceive is that you go one route or the other. You either go NAMUR open architecture that we don't have time to talk about today, but it's about sensors, not necessarily for control, but for monitoring. And then there's MTP that Bruce really just detailed. Or you go alternatively to OPA. What we really want industry, the operating companies to think about is we don't want you to think about MTP is the end of the journey. What we want to really, the argument about harmonization, the vision that we're painting is we want an overall solution that addresses the root cause business problems that we discussed at the beginning of this seminar about motivating business problems. So Bruce, if you can click to the next slide. So this is a picture of harmonized vision for OPA and MTP and NOAA that was produced collaboratively by the OPA Forum working with NAMUR. And so you have NOAA and MTP on the left. The chart in the middle is how NOAA and MTP slot in functionally to the OPA reference architecture. What you see is that MTP there is the interface to DCS and PLCs. And the NOAA function is the pink and orange layers there that slot into the advanced compute platform that we just changed the nomenclature over time. But there's some automation, or slide automation here. So Bruce, if you can click one more time. The points we want to emphasize is that MTP can serve as the gateway function in the OPA reference architecture. And the OPA reference architecture itself provides the mechanism to deliver what NOAA aspires as a data path for monitoring types of data not necessarily involved in closed loop control. So the takeaway from this picture is that, you know, the NAMUR initiatives, in particular MTP, are valuable stepping stones towards the ultimate vision. But the ultimate vision addresses very fundamentally and the root causes of some of these interoperability problems that are related to the proprietary approaches used in some of the control system products. So I don't, in the interest of time, I'm not going to verbalize the words down here. Bruce, if you can just go back. The point is on the right hand, the liaison relationships, these all represent memoranda of understanding where the OPA Forum and NAMUR, ZVEI, and Profibus International have agreed to work together on the development of the MTP standard and its harmonization with OPA. That's the message I want to leave this audience. Okay, Bruce, let's keep going. Yeah, finally, just to flash up, the real value here is the hyperlink. If you want to read more details about what I just covered in just a couple of minutes, this is a paper that we just recently published in Control Engineering Practice that speaks in detail about this harmonization of OPA, NAMUR open architecture, and module type package. Let's go, Bruce. So you want me to do this poll, right, guys? Okay, so let me just read. So this is audience participation time. We're gonna put another poll up for you. So Bruce and I have just explained a couple of open standards approaches, and we just want to ask the audience, do you think these standards will help solve your current challenges? Real simple, yes, no, maybe, I don't know. So we'll take a minute to poll the audience. And I'm going to count on Christina. Christina, when you think you have the data, why don't you just pop it up?
Yes, so we give everyone another 10 seconds or so. Yeah.
We currently have 25 online and we have 12 people answering. So please cast your vote. Thank you. The countdown? Yep, thank you.
It looks like we got the results, Tom.
Yeah, it's pretty encouraging.
So hopefully we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, that's encouraging. Okay, let's move on because we really want to have time for questions from the audience. So, okay, so Bruce and I have been talking about concepts. So lest you think we're just talking about slideware here, that the next part of the seminar is we're going to talk about actual system building projects. And I'm going to go first with the OPA story. So this is an overview of the end user projects to prototype and build what we call test beds of open process automation based systems. So you see the list of companies here, and I have basically a slide for each one of these companies. So Bruce, let's just click into it. So this is a picture of ExxonMobil's test bed, and I don't have time. So just remember those three key components: the distributed control node, DCN, the OPAS connectivity framework, and the advanced compute platform. You can look at the functions and the suppliers providing hardware or software for those functions on this chart. So this is an OPAS-based system consisting of component products from multiple suppliers that have been integrated together, again, using the emerging OPAS standard. This is ExxonMobil's third system building activity that goes back into the 2015 timeframe. Let's move on, Bruce, in the interest of time. So ExxonMobil has decided, they've announced what the industry calls final investment decision to go ahead with a field trial in actual manufacturing. So the ExxonMobil's second build controlled a pilot plant, 160 IO facility, but with real hydrocarbons at temperature and pressure. It was successful. The results are documented in that paper that I showed you from control engineering practice. The field trial is going to be replacing an existing DCS and several types of PLCs. It's going to have 2,000 to 2,500 IO, 300 control loops, and is expected to be commissioned in 2023. Next one, Bruce. BASF, which is perhaps a company that's a little bit closer in terms of products made to this audience. Several years ago at the NAMUR General Assembly meeting, showed this demonstration unit where they built a system that incorporates OPA, MTP, and NOAA. You can see the list of supplier products here: Phoenix Contact, OPCUA, Wind River, again, a computing virtualization company. The ABB's control software was used, and intelligent valves from Samsung. So I know BASF continues to build out from this work, emphasizing digital field instruments, advanced physical layer, if that makes sense to anybody, but also building up in terms of cloud connectivity and digital twins. Next slide, Bruce. Georgia Pacific, the paper company, has this work is, they have built portable OPA-based systems with the component suppliers listed here on the left, and they are taking that portable system around to their paper mills as a way of educating their workforce and building up a case for action for a transition to OPA-based control systems. Next one, Bruce. Saudi Aramco and Petronas have announced OPA testbeds. Saudi Aramco's has been in existence now for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years in Saudi Arabia. Petronas announced their plans for a testbed. It'll be somewhere in Malaysia. They haven't started building it yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to announce the start of building of it at the ARC Forum event in June of this year. And Dow Chemical has a project, they call it the MXD Open Architecture Testbed. And I won't go into the details here. This is perhaps somewhat akin to the pharma use cases, because this is largely batch process oriented. And you can see plug and play as part of the capabilities that what they want to demonstrate. The last slide that I have to talk about, Bruce, if you can click one more time. So this is an offering from multiple companies operating under the umbrella of called the Coalition for Open Process Automation, acronym COPA. COPA is a small-scale functional system based on the OPA standard. It's also a structured training program. My company, Collaborative Systems Integration, as well as partner company, Seaplane.ai, Silicon Valley computer science and IT company. We're the lead integrators working with multiple component suppliers that are listed here. Again, what's the common denominator is we're all building products and services in alignment with the OPA standard. So there's the reference architecture that's repeated. We actually have plans to incorporate MTP in the Quick Start system. The photograph on the right this is our actual third system build. This is what will be exhibited at the ARC Forum event in June. But we're also going to use it as a basis for a public demonstration. And that's the last thing I'm going to close with. So you guys can see a video of our first public demonstration that was done in November of 2021. Looking ahead, we're going to be shooting our second demonstration this week, and we're going to show it 3 times regionally, Americas, Asia Pacific, and Europe, Middle East on May 3 and May 4. And you can get more details at the website there where the URL is explore.copacontrol.org. So Bruce, back to you.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of work going on, it seems, to look at how to best implement and utilize these standards. We've been looking at this problem as part of BioPhorum for about 4 years, since 2018. We started development of our stir tank unit specification and initial testing of that specification, and as a result of that first bit of testing we did back in November 2018, we discovered a need for an interface standard, and that's when we did a survey of what was out there and sort of settled on NAMUR. And we've had 4 different proof of concept tests over the past 3 years that have tested different aspects of the NAMUR MPP standard, somewhat testing them as they've come up. The first one looked at the MPP file, that configuration file, and how that gets created and how that gets digested. The next one test looked at the services interface also. Third test looked at synchronization, and that was what spurred that new specification 4.22, I think was the number of the MPP standard. And then our most recent one, just a few months ago, we began looking at alarm and audit trails. So this is work that was done by the BioPhorum. It was work that had all these different vendors participate. The companies on the bottom were the process equipment assemblies, or the skids, and the companies across the top were the process orchestration layers that controlled those skids. So we have a pretty good relationship with NAMUR, communication channels established, and as the different sections of the MTP standard are coming out, we're designing a test protocol to put those to task. Just another look at the companies that have been involved from a process orchestration layer and a process equipment assembly standpoint. Honeywell, Emerson, Siemens, Rockwell, I mean, pretty much all the big companies and all the major OEM vendors, right? Merck, Pulse, Sartorius, and Cytiva. Just look a little bit more at what the architecture of these tests have looked like. We've used a batch execution system along with visualization that talked through QA to the actual PEA equipment. Some of the learnings that we've had from this testing that we've done, and the last three have all been virtual since the pandemic. So the first two were face-to-face, the last three have been virtual. And you know, more testing's valuable. Who would have thought? You know, most of the issues we discovered were minor. We made significant progress with each iteration of testing. We're testing more stuff in a more complex fashion. But we are finding some difficulties because the MRMCP is an unpublished standard, right? They're still writing sections of it. And we had some issues with people not working on the same version of the document and things like that. We've also had opportunities to influence the NAMUR. I spoke about the synchronization issue, and there's also been a situation with the hold state and how that was handled in NAMUR was somewhat different than what S88 people would say a hold should function like. And yeah, this I need to update this slide. It's not BLAT 14. It's 2.44. I think this is going to address for synchronization. So I talked about that. And you know, we're always looking, rather than develop our own, you know, can we leverage an existing standard out there? You know, an existing interface standard, you know, an existing communication layer standard. You know, is there something out there that can be reused and we're not having to reinvent the wheel, so to say. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Kenny to sort of wrap things up for us.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
And recap and handle the questions and answers. So go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Bruce. So for giving us the insights to the POC learnings and so far. So yeah, we'll move on to the polling question over here. So after going through the modular standards that are out there, right? So I'd like to check with the audience, what is your experience or knowledge on this modular standards, such as OPAF, OPC, MTP, PACML, and etc. So is it number one, you follow the standards closely, or you are planning to follow the standards, or you know the standards, but you're not planning to follow, or you do not know the standards at all? So I'll give you guys 1 minute to do the poll. Yeah, Christina, anytime where you have your poll result, you can flash it if possible.
Okay, we have 24 online right now and we have 11 votes. Can everyone please cast your votes? Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so the poll has closed. So this is the result of the poll. Yeah, with the results of the poll, we do know that, you know, out of the 20 plus participants over there, how many of you are well versed in the standards, and whether do we need to create more awareness regarding the modular automation standards itself. And we are glad to see that, you know, most of you guys plan to follow the standards or to follow the standards itself. Bruce, next slide, please. Yep, so we have come to the last slide of the presentation. I'll be going through the recap of what we have covered earlier. So in the initial slides, right, we have spoke about your modular automation story map, which outlines the challenges of current biotech and pharmaceutical process automation itself. So the 5 challenges are: number 1, the current production lines are difficult to reconfigure. Number two, there are non-standard interfaces to the skid, which results in increasing capex and maintenance costs. Number three, locked into specific vendors due to communication protocol and system architecture, which results in difficulty to integrate multiple vendors. Number four, long product changeover period due to revalidation and longer reconfiguration time. And last but not least, long and complex procedures for new product introduction. So then after that, we explain on how the ballroom concept and modular concept works and how it will help to solve these challenges. Afterwards, we outline the benefits of using a plug and play technology and having process automation standards in your production line. So the benefits are mainly reconfigurable production lines to be able to cater to market demands, increase speed to market, as well as lower capex costs. Subsequently, we gave an overview of what are the production standard landscapes developing as of now, such as MTP, OPAF, PACML, OPCUA, and etc. Next, we went through the proof of concept and testing phase done till date for industrial use. We have successfully passed each organization testing event, including demonstration interoperability with other equipment vendors such as Merck, Sartorius, Millipore, and Cytiva. Lastly, we showed what are our learnings up to date from the proof of concept to testing phases, such as communication issues discovered were minor and typically resolved during testing, and most findings were around differences in implementation and gaps in the standards and etc. So all of these learnings, right, will be reflected in future product enhancement for improved real-world implementation itself. So with that, we have came to the last slide of the presentation, and we would like to open up to the floor for the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat box so that our team here would be able to address them.
And while we're waiting for some questions to come in, I'm going to remind everybody that Don and mine's contact information is up on the second slide of the presentation. So should you have any questions or sometime later want to find out some more information about either OPAF or MPP or BioPhorum or PACML or any of this stuff, really, feel free to reach out to Don or myself. And if we can't answer the question, we'll try and point you in the right direction to somebody who can. I think also, if we don't have any questions, we're going to ask you if you could to fill out the survey that's linked for it is in the chat. It'll only take a few minutes and is real valuable to ISP and planning these sessions and choosing topics and format. So if you could provide your feedback then there, that would be very much appreciated. And I ask my co-presenters, Kenny and Don, if they have anything else they'd like to add.
Thanks, Bruce. Nothing from me. Over to Don.
Yeah, I guess the theme that we're using with OPA now, the standard is making it work in practice. So again, it started as an idea, took the form of an industry standard, a specification, but now we're making it work in practice with prototype projects and the initial commercial offering. So making it work in practice is kind of the message we want to leave you guys with.
Very good. Well said, Don. So with that, I'll pass it back to our hosts, ISPE, Christina or Jeff.
Yeah, thank you very much to the speakers. That was a very good session. I hope everyone enjoyed it. So I guess you were very thorough, so there are no more questions. Just a reminder that we will be sharing the PDF slides and the recording with everyone later on, so you can rewatch it as you like. Having said that, so thank you again to the speakers, and have a good evening and a good day for all our friends from Singapore and the region. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present. Okay. Bye now.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
See you ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.